Assalamu alaikum, fam. Hope you're doing well. So, how has the belief in the afterlife of Islam, like how Islam presents it, helped me, and how does it kind of make me feel motivated and inspired? And how is it different? And how does it make me feel more able to withstand this world? Well, essentially, belief in the afterlife requires me to reflect upon a sense of justice. It requires that I bear patience with getting revenge and vengeance. And it also gives me, in my darkest moments, joy in thinking about what will happen to those who are truly evil. So, this allows me to stay my hand more and practice more of contemplating what I would want to do instead of how I can do it. So if somebody is vicious and I can't do what I wish I would do to them, sometimes it's nice to just think about how they'll be held accountable for it. They may have gotten away with it. They may have escaped getting justice in the way in which I wish I could give it. So the belief in the afterlife allows me to stand back, really look at that person or situation, and say, we all have a term appointed. We're all going to the same place to be judged. You'll be held accountable, and I'll be held accountable. Right? Because depending solely upon, like, the American justice system to get closure in any issue is definitely not going to work. Right? And what's interesting is I find myself, the more I contemplate how Islam gives us a sense of meaning in terms of tests and trials, let's really look at this mode of testing, right? So we look at people who die in horrible ways. We witness it, we see it, and it reminds us that that could have been us, it could be us, and we're not in that situation, therefore we need to press onward. It's like when I see so many people in my family drop like flies because of drugs, or I see my community infested with rot from liberal, progressive, be free, use drugs, party on lifestyle. You look at it and you're like, yeah, okay, these corrupt politicians, they're doing what they're doing, but it's a term appointed, and they're enjoying the rich, lavish lifestyle. But eventually, Allah is going to recompense them for every deed. So I don't have to go out and protest and riot. It feels good to do it, but at the same time, bearing steadfast patience and contemplating can work too. I find myself, because of Islam, becoming more reserved and less ready to carry out retribution. That doesn't mean I won't do it, it just means I'm more selective on who it would be done for and for what reasons, right? And remember when I said Habib, when he responded to Connor with just really letting Connor run his mouth, right? And how Habib stood there because of Islamic character. That to me is like almost like a sign for not just the hereafter, because you do get a reward for maintaining composure, right? Being on your best behavior, not stooping to the same level as them. But you also hand it over to Allah to deal with. And now Connor has lost so many fights and he snapped his ankle and he embarrassed himself. And all he has left now is his wild tongue talking trash instead of his fighting legacy. So, pressing onward to your death is amazing. And what's really interesting too is as I read more hadith, and there's the hadith where, remember when it says, I believe it's in Bukhari, like, don't retreat, you don't turn your back to the enemy, you face your enemy. And remember when some of the people were trying to flee, I think it was Omar who said, you picked up bad habits from your enemies in the time of the messenger, peace be upon him, we would not flee the battlefield. So standing firm, looking straight, not moving, right, not fleeing, but just going forward is something that Islam gives you. And you're ready for the next portal, for the next dimension. And you're no longer just clinging to your paycheck, your vanity, right? It's like when you're just pulling that big wagon of like all your material objects with you around, you're hoarding all this stuff with you. Just let it go, and you're just existing here now in your consciousness, your soul just perceiving everything out of the black pupils of your eyes, scanning everything around you, knowing that any second it can clock off and you're going to be in a totally different reality, and your stinky, rotting body is going to be put into the dirt. It changes the way in which you think. It changes the way in which you carry yourself. What becomes important. The hereafter has helped me feel more strong and less afraid. So, what can I give as a symbolic example? So, in Game of Thrones when the Unsullied are fighting the White Walkers and they're in their rows with their spears and nobody moves, even though they know the enemy is more than them and they're getting swamped and all those skeletons are like biting them, and they stay and they just, no matter what, they keep taking their spears and going at it. That is something that I feel Islam gives you against this world, where no matter what opponent comes at you, you do not retreat unless it's a tactical one where you need to maneuver to a different spot, right? A maneuver is different than a retreat, running and fleeing with your tail between your legs. The hereafter gives you a hope that every small thing you did is going to be accounted for on the accounting table. And I like the way in which Islam talks about that, where you have all these different forms of charity, all these different ways to please Allah, all these different opportunities to do good. The world is filled with opportunities for you to do good and to survive tests and trials. And that you will, at the end of your life, if you lived it right, according to realizing like this world is the dunya, then you have a nice stack there, So for me, instead of just walking around like a mall, buying crap, and, going in the classroom and trying to be like, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, or having this certain watch, or certain types of long dinosaur nails, instead of focusing on all the beauty, instead of focusing on all the materialism and the titles and arrogance and smugness and tech toys, just how many good things can I do? How can I improve my character? How can I level up? Because you're on a treadmill that's going towards death. As the clock ticks, you're going towards death. As the sand is coming down that hourglass, you're coming towards death. Every time you walk out of your house, every time you open your eyes, every time you go to bed, it could be the end. And no one's going to care about your college degree. No one's going to care about how much money you made for the shareholders. No one's going to care about your stock portfolio. They're just going to want to know how they can tear it all apart when you die and who can get what. Pretty much. So, you just clock out. Like my neighbor, she just died. She's dead. She died a couple days ago. I'm never gonna see her again. She was such a nice old lady. She's dead. She's in the next realm. She's never coming back, and I'm never gonna come home and see her walking to her car or carrying her groceries. I'm never gonna have a conversation with her by the laundry room ever again. Right? Unless it's in the hereafter. She's gone. She wasn't 70. Like, she was maybe 60 something, I think. We don't all get to live to be 80 or 90. She's gone. And her body is going to be put in the ground. So, or cremated. She might get cremated, who knows. So the afterlife, where we will have everything laid bare. What we said, where we went, how we spent our money, everything. And that causes fear and hope. But being once just a very mindless atheist, like I was before, and now how I feel so strong and less afraid, I look at it different. It's like when you're an atheist, the way I felt, it's like you gotta spend and have as much fun until the lights turn on, until the music stops. And I only get having fun when I'm with a bunch of people doing stupid things, or when I'm spending money, wasting money, or I'm at work. It was just more dead. And he needed like intoxicants in order to feel fulfilled. Well, I'm going into the dirt. Better do something now. Now it's, look at all the ways Allah tells us that we can earn charity and stack up our accounting. It's like, in the video games, we do things to stack up our points in the game, right? And we feel very accomplished. And it's a visual digital realm, right? Different players have like, oh, they have this stat, that stat, this trophy, right? And I would do things in the games and feel like, oh, I love it. This is really nice. But what's even better is when you take that motivation and you examine, like, how many good things can I do today for other things on the earth? Even feeding ants, like what I've been doing, feeding bugs, feeding birds. People overlook that, right? But Allah literally tells us and shows us that there's so many different ways we can do charity and good deeds. It's not just dropping cash and building a school, because not everyone can do that. All the opportunities we have. Everything, right? And it really shifts your brain. You just take a step back, right? And I like thinking about how some people, for the horrible things they've done, how they're going to be screaming and being in horrible pain. And it's nice to imagine what can happen to some truly evil people, right? And it also keeps my hand from doing something bad. It does act like a deterrent. I used to say, if you need a religion to be good, you're not really good. But now, I think the religion fearing Allah keeps me from doing a lot of dumb things. Right? Keeps me from popping off when I don't need to. And that if I do fight, or I do need to do something, it must be something that, if I stand before Allah, I can really honestly say, this was an eye for an eye, this was a foot for a foot. It had to be done, and I will accept the punishment that comes with it. Right? Really makes you have a different type of iron soul. And also just makes me more of an honest person. I already was. But it makes you more. Makes you more. I know atheists mock, like, oh, you have an angel, the scribes watching you. But I like it. Because it makes me realize that no matter where I go, someone's gonna see. Because before, I struggled with that as an atheist. I need to do good when my boss can see. I need to do good so my boss can see on the papers. I need to do good so my teachers can see. I need to do good so my grandparents can be proud. You want to do all those things, but it was only towards these small approvals. Whereas when you're a Muslim, you really think about what the creator of the cosmos is going to give you in terms of punishment and reward, right? And then when we learn in Islam that even your wealth is a test and trial, but you will have a reduction in the hereafter. If you asked for a lot of worldly pleasure, you might have nothing in the hereafter because you asked for it all in this realm, right? So then I thought, what can I give up to help me earn ample provision in the hereafter? And to pray for that, and to say, I want to have these provisions for the hereafter. Please help my soul incline towards goodness so I can have a good accounting on the day of judgment and my record be presented in my right hand. Because I may not get what I want in this world, and maybe it's better that I don't. A deferred reward, a deferred payment. And instead, focus on achieving the goals of how many times can I fight evil, prevent pain in certain areas, and endure suffering and trials. It's a real achievement when Allah tests you and you survive and you realize you have rewards waiting for you in the next reality. That's a medicine. That is something that gives you bravery. And when you face someone who's scary, someone who puts a gun in your face, or someone who says they want to come and kill you, and you stand there and say, if this person really does make me get out of this reality, I'll be ready, I hope, because I feel like I have done enough deeds to where Allah will present me my record in my right hand. And I won't need to be purified in the flames. That maybe, just maybe, I've done enough, and enough people and creatures and situations will be able to testify for me, and I will be spared such a torment in the grave and a roasting in the flames. Because if a nightmare is bad, hell would be much worse. So having a healthy, steadfast strength of perseverance, endurance, striving, responsibility, accountability, discernment, patience, it changes your mindset. So the Islamic form of the hereafter and the concepts it gives me and the feelings and way in which it elevates my consciousness have made me really hold on to the religion and not be as impressed or led astray by those who dwell in the dunya and only measure each other by the standards of the dunya. This really makes life worth living, in my personal opinion. And that is how I would answer the question of how has the belief in the afterlife elevated me and give me a better sense of purpose in life. I hope that answers the question.